Hey, and welcome to my channel, Max-Paranormal. So, on this channel, I tell you about all the weird stuff that's happened in my life. And if you want to share your story, we would love to hear about it. Alright, so today, we're going to talk about grave changes. So, when I was a kid, I lived near this church up on a hill in Canada. And in the church hall, I used to go to Girl Guides. And during the breaks, or when we were waiting for our parents to pick us up, we quite often all wait outside. And down the side of the church and around the back was where the graveyard was. So sometimes we'd just be playing or whatever else, we'd go around the back, by the back door, which also took you to the church hall. There was one grave that sat above ground. So, you know, the four sides of stone with a lid. And it stood, I don't know, I can remember when I was saying I couldn't touch the ground with, so it stood up quite high. And on top of the grave was the person's name. And I won't say what the name is, just to protect the family. And it said Major, family name, fought in the First World War, the dates that he fought, the dates that he lived, and when he died. And there was a lot of information on this grave. I mean, it was all the way down with that little metal lettering actually, in the stone. And he was obviously related to a very well-known family in the area. Anyway, so many years later, after I moved to the UK, I was in my early 20s, and I went back to visit family. I got a lot of family still in the area. I go there a lot. Love that area. So I decided, I had the car one day, borrowed the car from my parents, and I popped out, and I thought I was going by the church. I thought, oh, I'll pop up. I'm that much older. I like to know when this major had actually fought in the First World War, and maybe it said what battles he was at. And I was that little bit older, so I wanted to know the information, because obviously I remember calling him Major, and all us girls, the girl guys used to say, oh, let's go and sit on Major's tomb, and we say, hey Major, and all that. And I pulled up, and I walked around the back of the church. I know exactly where it is. I walked straight up to the grave. The grave was still there. And I look at it, and I'm like, that's not right. It now says Captain on it. And I think, that's really strange. My childhood, we'd always called him Major. I've been to Girl Guides for, was it, at least 3 years, I think it was, and we'd always called him Major. And I thought, well, why would we call him Major if he's a captain? Anyway, so I went back to my parents, because they were living back there at the time, and I told them about this, and even they were like, oh, yeah, okay, I think you called it Major, okay, not really paying much attention. I'm like, no, this is really strange, because we always called him Major. Anyway, they thought I was a little bit nuts. So about 10 years ago now, so we're talking about a good 20 years in between, I was back in the area, and again, I was passing by, and I thought, that's really strange. I'm going to go and have a look at that grave. So I've gone up to the graveyard and walked over to the grave, and suddenly it says he's a sergeant. And I'm like, how can that be? And I'm looking at the lettering. The lettering is obviously aged just perfectly for that age grave, which you see a lot in the UK where I live now. So, it's the aging's right. And now he's a sergeant. And I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. So I'm a little bit shocked, and kind of look around the graveyard and not really thinking much about it. And I'm about to walk out, and just as I'm about to walk out, for some reason I turned around and I saw a brand new grave right from where the entrance to the graveyard was. I could see it across. And it was the last name of somebody who I knew. And they were elderly and lived in the area, and in fact had a road named after them. And I was like, oh, I know that name. I know who that is. But I've got to rush back. I've got to rush back. We were getting together with other family, so I didn't have any time. Anyway, so I've gone back, and I'm telling my parents about, now he's a sergeant. I don't understand. Why is he a sergeant? I don't understand why he's a sergeant. And they're going, no, hold on. We do remember you saying that he was a captain last time. I'm like, yeah, right. I did, didn't I? Anyway, I've told my partner about this story a number of times over the years, because it's one that's always played on my mind, to the point where, I've even had discussions with her going, has somebody changed the timeline? He's gone down in rank each time. I mean, what's going to happen? Next time I go, he's going to be private? What's going to happen? Does this mean that the timeline's not just changed once, but the timeline keeps changing? Anyway, it's blown my mind. So finally, last time we went over, she said to me, take me to this churchyard. I'm like, gladly. I want to know what's going on. Let's go. And last summer we were there. So we come up to this churchyard. I say, okay, look, I'm going to show you where it is. It's around the back. It's by the entrance, and we walk around the back. And there's a no above ground grave. There's a headstone for somebody completely different who died in the 1800s, so well before the First World War. And I'm looking around going, where's the grave gone? It was right here. We sat on it when I was a child. I sat on it the last time I visited it. But that's not even the only thing. So I'm going, she's going, let's walk around, let's have a look. I'm going, no, it's right there, but fine, we'll have a walk around. So we can now see where there was no other above ground grave. There is one all the way down the other end of the graveyard. So we go and have a look at that. It's not him. It was never there before. Because we always said how weird it was that he was, because we thought he was in the box above the ground, not actually in the ground and in the box on top, which obviously is what really happens. So, as little girls and all that, we were all like, oh, his body's just in there, and wondered how he got killed and things like that. Maybe he was a hero. So if all that wasn't weird enough, that he's now just disappeared, and there's another grave from somebody who died much earlier there. We're walking out, and I'm telling her about this other new gravestone of the family that I knew, because I actually wanted to go and pay my respects, because I didn't have time the last time. And we're just about to walk out the graveyard, and I said, yeah, it's over, and it's not over there anymore. Their gravestone that I saw as I left the time before is not even there anymore. We're like, no, hold on a minute. So we start walking around the graveyard again. And we do find the gravestone. And not only is it not in the area where I thought it was, it's down the far end where I'd never be able to see it, and sideways on to the entrance to the graveyard. So everything changed. I don't know, what do you think happened? Love to hear your opinion. If you've got any stories like this, I would love to hear them as well, and so would everybody else who subscribes to the channel. So please subscribe, and I'll tell you some more stories next time. Toodles!